I'll never forget coming home from a business trip after being married for 2 years. We had a then 2-year-old daughter, our oldest daughter, Kylie, drove home, pulled up into the driveway, and my daughter and my wife were there with their bags packed. Opened my door and got out of the car and said, Star, what are you doing? She said, I'm leaving you, Hans. The abuse, the words, the emotional things, the physical things that have happened in this house, I just can't deal with it. I said, babe, I knew that we weren't great, but I didn't think things were this bad. She says, Hans, I'm leaving. I'm going to live with my mom. It was my wake-up call. It was my wake-up call where my wife and my then 2-year-old daughter decided to leave because of the condition of my marriage. She had begged me to go to counseling, but I thought with my man responsibility lead that I could pull up my bootstraps and I could just do it. But in that moment, my marriage crumbled. I went to go move in with my parents and explained to them. Nobody knew what was going on. No one knew. We were the friendly, happy couple in church. Kylie had her little red bow in her hair, and we were dressed nice, looked like Ken and Barbie. It was, we were the perfect couple until this event. No one knew what was going on behind closed doors. Went to go, again, move in with my parents. They had no idea. My dad looked me square in the eye. He said, Hans, you're going to go to marriage counseling. I said, Dad, you don't understand. My wife doesn't want to have anything to do with me. Marriage counseling, it's just not going to happen. He said, Hans, if you want to live in our house, you're going to go to marriage counseling alone. And I'm so thankful that he stood for our marriage. He believed in our marriage, even when I didn't see that there was any hope at all. My dad saw something that I couldn't see. So I showed up in marriage counseling and started ranting and raving about Star's doing this, Star's doing that. And my counselor, with grace, he saw me, he cared about me, and he lovingly shared what it looked like to be a godly husband and a godly father. And I started to get it. I started to latch on to some of these principles. I started to do some of these things that you were supposed to do. But the problem was, as I was continuing to love, as I was continuing to pursue Star, she was moving in the other direction. She was pursuing a divorce. And honestly, the only reason she didn't do it is because she didn't have the money. I think I was making $10.50 an hour at the time. We couldn't afford to rub 2 nickels together. But again, I continued to love. And my counselor was just, Hans, keep loving. But you want to know what? Honestly, I got tired. I was like, I was loving and doing all the right things. I was seeing her. I was starting to come to grips with how my behavior had hurt her. But she wouldn't give me the time of day. She would only interact with me for the logistics of the relationship. I remember going into counseling after, being in counseling for 2 months or so, and I went into Carl's office, my counselor's name, and said, Carl, this isn't working. All this God stuff, all this seeing, caring, and doing, it's not working. I'm watching Star move further and further away from the relationship. And what he explained to me that day still reverberates in my soul. You see, I was loving her right. I was doing all the right things, but I was loving her in the right way with the wrong reason, with the wrong heart. See, the thing that I wanted the most out of my love is I wanted my marriage back. And that's a great thing. But when you make a great thing the most important thing in any situation, it becomes an idolatrous thing. And God in his grace allowed me to love her unsuccessfully in a sense of accomplishing what I wanted, getting her back, so that my heart could be reoriented, so that he could reorient my heart. You see, what God wanted me to know is he said, Hans, I want you to love her for my glory. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says this, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you drink, do it all for the glory of God. I was loving to get my marriage back, a good thing, something that God wanted, but it wasn't the most important thing. And God in his grace allowed me to go through that failure so that he could reorient my heart. Some of you might be thinking like, okay, Hans, that sounds all Sunday schoolish and stuff, to love for the glory of God. But see, the other thing that I got in that counseling session is I understood how I was able to see God. I was saved at the time, but in that counseling session, he started to explain to me who God was. And as we talk about love seeing and love caring and love doing, he explained to me that love is not as much those 3 things. Love is not caring and seeing and doing. Love is a person. Love is a person in the person of Jesus. And he explained that, Hans, Jesus sees you perfectly. He cares deeply about what you're going through. And he has the ability to do something. He loves you that much. Hans, he sees you. He designed you. He created you. He desired you. He knows the number of hairs on your head. He knows the number of your days. He knows the content of your days before one of them came to be. He cares about you. He rejoices over you with singing. He mourns with you as you're going through a struggle. And Hans, he has the power to change you and to reorient you and to heal your marriage. You know what I wanted to do in response to that? I wanted to love my wife in the exact same ways that I was loving, but not for her, not for my marriage, not even for me, but for him. Because when you have somebody that loves you that much, you will do whatever they tell you to do and go wherever you call them to go. And that was me. God got me. And he still got me. And in some ways, what happened in that counseling session is still reverberating around in me. And not only did it change our marriage, it's changed our legacy, and it's changing you in some way today. And it's changed tens of thousands of people as we share our story across the country. Because of one reorientation. This reorientation of realizing that love is not about seeing, caring, and doing, but love is a person. Love is Jesus.